Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm Liz Heiman, and each week I'm joined by your crew of seasoned sales experts who have navigated these waters and come out victorious. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Heiman, and I'm here with your crew of sales experts, Brynne Tillman, Darryl Praill, Chris Bowen, and Renee Bigelow. And we are talking about sales management in a virtual world. In the last couple episodes, we were talking about relationships and list building, and now we're going to be talking about sales meetings. How do you have successful remote sales meetings? And I'm going to say, before we even dive into this, a lot of the same things will be true about having in-person sales meetings, but let's dive in and talk about what are some of the mistakes that people make when they're doing sales meetings? What are some of the things that we can do better? How do you do this thing called a sales meeting? And I have lots of thoughts, but I'd like for you guys to start.
I would like to start on this one.
Yes.
Because I see two camps, and one is vastly more successful than the other. One is the sales meeting something people hate going to, right? Like, I don't care if it's virtual or in person, to your point, but depending on the tone of what that meeting is and how you address the culture of your sales department and your company in that sales meeting is going to be whether or not people spend all week talking to their coworkers about how much they hate going to it and dread it and will come up with any excuse to get out of it, and therefore it is not productive at all. Or people go and feel like, oh, I'm going to get this. This is going to, like, I know I'm going to get something I need out of it. I'm going to feel pumped. Somebody's going to recognize something I did. I'm going to hear what's going on within the company. Like, this is an hour I need, or 30 minutes, or however long you run it, that I really need to schedule my week around, right? They're very rarely middles,
Right?
Those two worlds. And the one where people want to schedule their time around it and want to go and get the information and feel recognized, or those teams are always vastly more successful than the other ones.
I'm going to yes and that, and add that not only are they more successful when you're in that positive, when you're coming from that positive place, but you're going to get much better response. So they'll show up and they'll be happy, but you're going to get results, right? Because people.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean by the successful. Yeah, like.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And so one of the things when I was at a company a long time ago, the sales manager felt like the sales meeting was the time to call everyone out on whatever they messed up with that week, right? And so it was terrible. So we were in that, this was pre-email, so it was a long time ago. It was horrible to go into that meeting. And I had been promoted into that team from a team that had a very good culture. So it was the same company, different manager, different leader. It was horrible and it was embarrassing. And you didn't want to say your numbers out loud because for whatever reason, it was really uncomfortable. And you knew that no matter what, if you didn't hit every single goal, you're going to get called out on the floor. My manager, and I left the company, my manager prior to that, which I thought I was going to be at the company for life, by the way, my manager prior to that would say, so Chris, tell me, what was your best success story this week and how are you going to do more of that? Right? And it was this very positive experience. And when you'd show up, you would learn from how well everyone did. So I just wanted to yes and what Renee said. I think it's so important. I have 3 things for virtual meetings, and then I'm done because I don't really run too many virtual sales meetings. Number 1, require video on, because for me the biggest frustration is if I'm in a sales meeting that another company's running and no one's video's on but mine. They're doing emails. They're doing they're not paying attention. Require videos on. Number 2, set an agenda before they show up. Let them know exactly what it is that we're going to talk about. They can prepare for whatever they need to prepare for. And I think that having that agenda, just they can follow. It's like when I go to a Broadway show, I like to know Act 1 and Act 2. Where's the last song before I get to go to the bathroom, right? Like, what is the agenda? I want to know what that is. And then the third thing is every agenda should come with in an email before saying, is there anything you would like to add to this agenda? And allow the sales team to add anything that they feel, or at least request to add anything that they feel would be valuable. So that's all I have to say on the whole topic, but thanks for letting me share.
Well, Chris, you're doing this every day, right? So tell us, what do you think makes for a good sales meeting, and what are the components that make a virtual meeting different? Or
No, I think it has to. It's like any other meeting that you do. If whether you were doing it with a prospect, a customer, or anybody else, it has to add value, right? Like if it's not adding value to that rep, whether it is different product lines, different solutions that you sell, whatever it happens to be that you're introducing to make sure that everybody has a full understanding. Acquisitions, we tend to make a number of those every year. How does that acquisition fit into our overall plans? How are you going to be able to leverage that to get into accounts or to expand your footprint within the accounts you're in? Make it valuable for them, right? If it becomes a firing squad or anything like that, nobody's going to want to show up. And I wouldn't want to show up to that either. But, make sure you do the recognition for people that have done things. I try to be a little bit more, or want to be a little bit more specific, because that way other members of the team may hear that, and instead of, sold X or sold X dollars or whatever, sold this particular solution into this company. Well, that may trigger across other members of your team. I need to reach out to them because I want to understand what they did, who they spoke to, who they sold, what was the persona they sold to, how did they get that through, right? Because maybe I think it's a really valuable solution in some of my accounts, but I want to make sure I'm leveraging their secret sauce, right? They've already got that deal closed. Especially if it's your industry focused, which we are. So, but it's making it valuable, and I would say make it the shortest amount of time that is feasible, right? Like if you have it scheduled for an hour, but you have 42 minutes of content, it's a 42-minute meeting, and then get out of there, right? Because nobody wants to waste their time.
Absolutely. Darryl, did you want to add something to this?
I'm going to repeat a little bit of what Rail said here, but for me, the big thing is a couple things. You have to have an agenda, and it has to be not generic, opening, account review, whatever. It has to be very specific so people understand exactly what they're getting out of it and why they should join. Not that it's optional; they should be there. I love Brynne's point about videos on. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. The other thing I talked about was when you have a meeting, like set the tone, right? In other words, you're modeling for them. So just like if I was on a first call with a client, or maybe even a second or third call, I would say, okay, so the agenda for today is ABC. This is the objective of the meeting. It's going to take this many minutes. Are we all on board? Did I miss anything? All right. So get that out of the way and set the tone. The other thing I loved Chris's point about adding value. And there's lots of ways to add value that I see missed all the time. Good leaders do it, but it's talking about, why did we win accounts? Why did we lose accounts? Can we have a healthy conversation that's non-accusatorial? It's like lessons learned here, folks, so that if Sally made that mistake, don't make the mistake Sally made because, hey, she didn't get the commission and you want commission, right? So let's just learn from Sally. All right. So in other words, it's a healthy environment where we're able to be vulnerable without there being consequences. Bring in the occasional guest speaker. Like, it doesn't have to be all the time, but maybe one a quarter, one a month, whatever, just so it's exciting and mixes it up. Do some recognition occasionally, whether it be, you're giving away tchotchkes or what have you. Just thank you so people get some camaraderie going. Because part of this is not just a sales meeting, it's team building. I want to go. I want to learn. And then, if you set the agenda, stick to the agenda, right? If it's a 30-minute meeting, don't let it go an hour and a half. That's just stupid. So people need to know that's predictable. The last thing I would say is attendance is mandatory. This is something I see all the time.
Right.
Oh, I've got a call. I just scheduled. It's the only time they can make it. That's bullshit. All right.
Thank you for calling that out, Darryl.
Yeah. I mean, it just annoys the living hell out of me. So when you're scheduling other client meetings, you say, I'm busy in that time. What are the times you have available? All right. So end of story. So it's not optional. And I see too many, shall we, for lack of better words, teachers' pets on the sales team get away with bloody murder. And all the other reps take note of that. So it's not building a healthy environment. This is where you get to actually have a conversation. Now, the flip to that I'll say is this. The sales leadership needs to understand their leadership. They're not necessarily a rep. So if the sales reps want to bitch nonstop about marketing or management, the sales leader's job is not to say, oh, I know, I hear you, they all suck. Their job is to say, well, I hear you, but let me explain to you also where they're coming from and what went into these decisions and why they're doing this. In other words, because if you do the old, yeah, I'm with you, I'm still in sales, I'm one of you, what you're doing is creating the vision within the organization, and that's not constructive or healthy at all. There you go.
So I have a list.
Sorry.
I was going to say I have a list of things that I think really, really help in sales meetings in general, but also in virtual sales meeting. They kind of go together, but some of them are more important, in different ways. Like, I mean, it's great to have food when you're in person. Sometimes it's hard to have food virtually. If you can do a DoorDash or something like that for different times, it's lovely, or send a coffee or whatever. But you can always, whether in person or virtual, have some music, have something where it makes people want to come in to the room. In a virtual world, I think it's really fun if you can to include something like props or backgrounds or something that makes it a little bit cultural and a little bit of a team building. It can be like a background contest if you don't, if you schedule it on Friday afternoon, some people do that. You could make it props and, everybody comes in Hawaiian shirts, whatever, right? We learned some good things during COVID lockdowns when we were all isolated. Carrying those through, little bits of those things through, I think really do make it a lot better. I have no problem with virtual meetings. I feel very connected with people through a screen, but I do it all the time. A lot of people don't. So you have to give it that extra oomph. Even if it seems a little bit cheesy, lean into the cheese. Like make it so it's fun, right? And then always recommending recognizing birthdays, anniversaries, whatever fits your culture, right? Like making sure that you're doing those small shout outs. Some sort of quiz or game, like, really helps with that, like lean into the cheese a little bit. It can be a quiz about your product. It can be a quiz about selling. It can be a quiz about like life or whatever, right? But something that's interactive. I also think for sales meetings, it's really great if time allows to always tackle one thing, one topic, choose whatever it is. If it's budget, if it's, you're merging, changing business units, whatever, like tackle one thing. Maybe it's a sales issue that you've seen and you want to talk about CRM management or whatever, but like you have a topic, right? I think it's really important to include some sort of training or education separate of that, right? And that could be let a rep tell a story to teach the other reps. Sales management can help with it, or overall management, other departments or guest speakers, right? Like a few minutes for something like that, because that's new and everybody's looking for something novel or new to be interested in. And then company news and industry news. I think this is one of the few times you have your team as captive audience and you need to make sure they're on top of things. And sales is often in and out all the time and not on the same cadence as the rest of the company. So you really need to make sure to get that company news and industry news. And the other two things or last thing really, is make it as interactive as possible, and let reps share, and make sure that you are recognizing in the sharing, you're doing recognition, and that recognition is for behavior you want to see more of.
Excellent. Those are all excellent. Chris, did you have something you were about to say?
Yeah, it's a little addendum. I agree with Darryl that attendance should be mandatory, but the way I have tended to look at this is more of set the expectation. I'll say, if we have 52 weeks in a year, I'm not saying you're going to be there 52 times for the sales meeting, but you should be there for at least 45, right? So that way I'm taking into account there might be a customer meeting that cannot move, has to happen at that time. Fine. People are going to have vacations. People are going to have other things that come up. Taking that all into account as part of that 7 weeks that you ultimately may not be there, and being able to figure that out, right? So I just think being able to set that expectation up front when you're dealing with people makes it a lot easier for you to hold them accountable. And then it's a lot easier for you to hold the whole team accountable to the same standard, as opposed to it looking like you're playing favorites.
I'll add one thing to what you said too, Chris, when you said that, it made me realize, if you structure your meeting where you do those other things that I talked about in one chunk, you can record that portion of the meeting for people who aren't there, which is an advantage of the virtual part. And then maybe if you have like more discussion, right, time where you want to be more free speaking, right? Maybe that part is not recorded. So you can structure everything at the beginning, get that recorded. That's there for everybody, all the information they need. And then, the part that everybody wants to be able to speak more freely maybe isn't recorded.
So I think that the key is have meetings that people want to be at. They can feel like they're having FOMO, right? The total fear of missing out. What am I going to miss if I'm not going to be there? I want to share with you a couple of mistakes that I see. So we talked about celebrating instead of beating up on your sales team. Celebration is huge, and you don't have to just celebrate closed deals. Sometimes you can celebrate, I finally got this guy on the phone, or I finally got this meeting. It's something to celebrate. Find things to celebrate. The second thing that I want to say is that if you are doing things in the sales meeting where you're having one-on-one conversations with people and everybody else is just sitting there, you are wasting everyone else's time. So how many hundreds of dollars are you wasting if you're doing your bottom of the funnel reviews with your team all sitting in one room together? And you get 5 minutes, and you get 5 minutes, and you get 5 minutes. And it doesn't have anything to do with me. Salespeople hate going to team funnel reviews. They're not effective. They're boring, and they accomplish nothing. Have funnel reviews. That's a different kind of meeting. So you have different kinds of meetings. You have your team meeting, you have your funnel reviews, you have your coaching sessions, and then you have your performance reviews. They're different kinds of meetings. You don't have a performance review in a team meeting. You don't have a funnel review in a team meeting. And what Brynne talked about, make it really clear what is going to happen so everybody knows how to prepare. Which of these meetings are we having, and how do I prepare for it? I also think purpose is really important. Like with funnel reviews, we were talking about, what's the purpose of a funnel review? And somebody said, so we can go over all the counts. And I'm like, no, that's not why we do a funnel review. The funnel review is so I can figure out what help you need to close those deals. That's the point of a funnel review. If you think it's so we can review the accounts, or if you think that the team meeting is about how does my company get the information they need from me, then we've done this completely wrong, because a sales meeting is about helping your sales team be successful. The other thing I love to see is group strategizing. I'm having this objection all of the time. Let's talk about it together as a team. I have an account. I am stuck, dead in the water. Can you guys help me? Yes, let's do a strategy session. So it's better to have a slightly longer meeting, add 15 minutes to it to do the things that people really need help with, instead of going over the bottom of their funnel, because that is not helpful to anyone. The only reason you would do that is if you had other people from the company in that needed to understand where different deals were, when they were likely to close, and what prep needed to happen to support them. That might be a reason to do a meeting like that, but otherwise, don't do it. Focus on your team, getting your team excited, helping your team, improving your team, building the team. All of those things happen at a team sales meeting.
Well, and listen, if you're going to do that in that meeting, I would say that's where your agenda really comes in. So people know, hey, this is not our normal meeting that we normally have. This is what we're going to be talking about. Here's who's going to be in the meeting so that you're prepared. And here's what they're going to be looking for, right? Because
exactly.
You don't want your team to be surprised that, hey, all of a sudden this team from deliveries here because they're having to figure out what they got to hire for the next 2 quarters. Okay, if we start making that part of a regular basis, okay, once a quarter, I know this meeting is going to happen. My team can be fully prepared and on board for how we're going to approach it. So,
and sell to your team what's in it for them.
Right. Right.
Pre-sell to your team what's in it for them to come.
Happier customers, faster time for us to deliver, all those types of things, right? So it's always the whiffle, right?
All right. So this has been a great episode of the Sales SOS podcast. I think having successful virtual meetings or in-person meetings are important. So I'm so glad you joined us for this conversation, and we will see you in our next episode. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope this episode has equipped you to navigate sales leadership with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to your Sales SOS podcast on your favorite platforms. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on LinkedIn or YouTube. Until next time, keep sailing toward your sales goals.